Welcome to Tier Fun. I am Andrew, your guide through Modern, and today we're doing part 2 of our Young Pyromancer quest. If you didn't catch the first video, or part 1 I should say, I'm doing a re-recording of this because my audio and the original recording went bad. So this is more of a play-by-play style video than my typical stream style video. With that being said, we're playing Young Pyromancer build in Modern, and if you want to catch the deck list, wait until sideboarding in this video or go back to the original video. It's right there at the beginning. Actually, it's in the thumbnail too, so if you have really good eyes, you can see it, but yeah, just go back if you want the deck list. So let's get this one started. This hand, let's pause for a second. This hand is lands. In a deck like this, we want lands. We also want a way to interact with our opponent, so ideally, in an opening hand, you'd have a burn spell to deal with a creature and a mana leak so that we have a little bit of everything. So Young Pyromancer, mana leak, and a burn spell, and lands. Maybe throw a Serum Visions in there for good measure, and that's kind of the ideal hand you're looking for. You want to draw into your win conditions later on. And so this is a great hand in the event that our opponent is playing creatures that we can interact with, and that's how they're winning. So I'm not super happy about this hand, but I'm definitely not displeased, And then I see Razorverge Thicket, and then I think, please not, and it is. It's the Boggles. So this hand went from being on the high side of good medium to the low side of where we're just stone cold dead. So we really need to draw out of this. Unfortunately, our first draw is Nimble Obstructionist. It's going to beat for 3 a turn. So, there's worse draws. There's more Lightning Bolts. Our second Roast is the absolute worst draw. So, our game plan here is to cast whatever spells we can cast that have targets that we can target and build Pyromancer tokens to hopefully block or attack to race them. Unfortunately for us, we can't block now because of Trample and First Strike. So, opponent, outside of casting Daybreak Coronet right here, or next turn, opponent's had a pretty great draw to match up with us. Boggles is actually not a good matchup for a blue-red interactive deck, especially one like this. Back in the day with Twin, it was still a good matchup because you could just twin them out, but we don't have that oops, I win button in this deck. So any strategy that invalidates our interaction is going to be good. And I'm just praying to the Lord up above that this is not, and it isn't. It's not a Daybreak Coronet. It is Spider Umbra, however, and that will give opponent reach if they choose to block our Obstructionist. They're massively winning the race right now, so there's no reason whatsoever to leave a creature back. And we can't block. All we can do is attack. So we're going to cast the Obstructionist, crack in for 5, and hope to draw out of it, I suppose. We're in a really, really tight spot here. Especially game 1, Boggles is a very, very, very hard matchup for this deck. So once again, we're stone cold to anything that gives opponent vigilance. Stone cold anything that gives it +3 power here because we're just actual dead. Thankfully, they have Rancor and nothing else. So, dodge that bullet. For a brief second, I debate if it's, what's the difference between 2 and 1. So I debate blocking with this token we're about to make. But I decide that we need to attack. We need to find a way out of it. We're pretty much dead unless we draw something good. We are dead unless we draw something good. At this point, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we draw a Bolt, we're live. And I'm kind of thinking we're probably circling the drain. And then I draw Cryptic Command. Cryptic Command and Young Pyromancer are the only 2 cards that are the 2 best cards we have against the Boggles Menace. I don't play Misty Rainforest here solely because I don't want to accidentally click it and lose the game. Like, in paper, I would play that Misty Rainforest. So our game plan here is to tap down their team, hopefully counter a Boggle, or counter anything, really. Opponent plays a pre-combat Dryad Arbor, so we get to tap that. Not that it would matter, because we're going to have enough attack power and a lightning bolt, and it's not like if you have a Dryad Arbor in that situation, you should play it second combat because the only way we're getting out of it is a cryptic tap. So yeah, opponent doesn't have anything else, so we win the game. That was a great win. Boggles, especially match 1, is very, as I said, it's a very nigh unwinnable matchup. You just have a lot of dead cards. So we throw out the Roast, we throw out the Grim Lavamancer, we bring in our only 2 interactive spells. We still need to bring something else in. We would ideally also like to get out Crucible of Worlds. It's not going to be that great. We have some more dead cards we want to take out, but we're just not able to. So we end up bringing Grim back in just as a mediocre clock. The original deck list, 5-0 to League, MTGO user Habakiri has Engineer Explosives in his sideboard, or their sideboard, and I think I switched out for a Staticaster because I like Staticaster, and if I'm running Staticaster, I like to run 2. I like to be able to draw them. They filled similar spots in your sideboard for things you want to deal with, except for this matchup. Engineer Explosives is much more flexible for threats it can deal with. So after realizing that Boggles is still a deck people play, obviously it is. It's actually kind of good as long as you don't mind losing to your own deck. But yeah, after realizing that Boggles is a deck, I think I would go back and put the engineered in. So here we're going to play Steam Vents tapped. Unfortunately for us, opponent had a Boggle turn 1, so we're not going to steal a win here, and we're going to be able to counter anything on turn 2, but that means that or our turn 2 or their turn 3. That means that we won't be able to play Young Pyromancer because if we were to tap out for Young Pyromancer here, we are effectively shields down for Daybreak Coronet. And if Daybreak Coronet sticks to a Boggle, we're just dead. We don't have a good answer for it. The only answer that we have would be to hope that the Coronet and another enchantment, it's just 2 enchantments, and that we would bounce the other enchantment. Thankfully, we have the Mana Leak. We use it as a charm because it's going to lose effectiveness faster than Mana Leak. And we dodged a bullet. We had interaction. We're likely going to have to hold up Mana Leak again next turn because, as I said, we are stone cold to Daybreak Coronet. Like there's nothing we're going to be able to do against Coronet. They're going to gain too much life. And yeah, we can make a lot of tokens, but eventually they'll find a Rancor, and we're either going to have a Mana Leak for that Rancor, or we're going to be dead. So, yep, we decide to hold up Mana Leak again because, as I said earlier, blocking the Boggle is one of our outs. And for that reason, I decide to counter the Spirit Mantle. The thought behind it is that the Boggles player, I expect to just jam down Coronet if they had it. So I'm assuming A, they don't have Coronet, and B, that Spirit Mantle is very good against our blocking strategy. So opponent attacks in, does not play another enchantment. We're feeling pretty good. We'd love to have another Mana Leak here, but beggars can't be choosers. We have a Lightning Bolt to go to the Dome and create a token, and don't look now, but we're off to the races. Still stone cold here to any good enchantment. Can't block because Umbra will make blocking excuse me, pointless. We'll just get rid of the Umbra. I don't want to chump here because it's a 2/2 and we're racing. I would try, if I was able to get rid of the Boggle there by blocking, I would have. Probably not with the Pyromancer because, that's how we're going to win this game. Here we're looking for interaction, and lo and behold, we found both Cryptic Command off the draw, Snapcaster Mage to get back Cryptic Command, and Lightning Bolt to deal damage. So, this is perfect. This is brilliant. Here we're just going to attack with an Elemental because who's got 2 thumbs and has been blown out by Windswept Heath getting a Dryad Arbor a million times? This guy. Yeah. So flashbacks to the 1,000 times that's happened to me. I finally learned my lesson. I don't attack the Young Pyromancer into it. Opponent chooses not to get another Dryad Arbor. And they apparently have nothing in their hand and we win. So that was a good one. Boggles is a rough matchup, especially if you don't have engineered explosives. Obviously, it's just a 1-of in the sideboard. You're not likely to draw it, but at least you'll feel better about it because you have an out. But yeah, that's... let's just pause for a second. Boggles, I think, is a surprisingly effective deck in Modern. I think the reason people don't play it is because it is like Affinity. It loses both to hate and also, unlike Affinity, well, Affinity does sometimes, but less unlike Affinity, it also loses to itself a number of times. In terms of game 1 win percentage, I don't know the numbers on this, but I would have to imagine Boggles probably has the best, or Affinity does. It's like 1 and 2. At minimum, I'm comfortable saying Boggles is a very good win percentage, game 1. A stellar win percentage. So we keep this hand. It's like the same hand it was for Boggles, kind of. +1 Snapcaster Mage, -1 Lightning Bolt. We'd like to have interaction. So opponent immediately fetches, shocks themselves, Thought Scours, and my first guess is Death Shadow, a spicy Death Shadows list. They're running Claim to Fame. The author of my 150 video, my Affinity 50 video, Claim to Fame in Affinity, is pretty bonkers. You should check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, so at this point I'm thinking Death Shadow, and then they scour into looting Noxious Revival in the graveyard. And at this point, the only thing I'm sure of is I have no idea what's going on over there. You can parcel out that opponent has creatures they want to recur with 2 mana, they cost 2 mana or less, that they want to interact with their graveyard. Obviously, they have 2 cards that interact with Noxious Revival and Claim to Fame. And Thought Scour is also a graveyard enabler. So those are our clues currently. When I was playing this live, I still hadn't put it together. If you've put it together or if you've played against this deck already, kudos to you. So we don't know what opponent's on. Just running out Snapcaster Mage for value is for anti-value is not the line I want to take. I bottom Electrolyze there. I think, and I pause here for a second also, and I look at Claim to Fame, and I realize that Electrolyze is probably going to be good against a deck that wants to recur 2 mana or less converted mana cost creatures from the graveyard. So I'm kind of kicking myself for bottoming the Electrolyze, but it's no big deal. I'm checking out. They brought back the Noxious Revival to another Thought Scour, milling a Snapcaster Mage, so we know that the only clue we have another clue there. Snapcaster is one of the creatures that they perhaps want to recur. We know it's a spells-based deck. Maybe it's a really weird Pyromancer Ascension deck. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now at this stage in the match. I'm just going to fetch the events here. Tap to save some life. Drew a land, island. So here, opponent's been spinning the wheels, and we don't have really anything good to hold up. So I'm comfortable running out of Snapcaster to get Serum Visions, just so we can start sculpting our next couple of draws. It's never the most exciting use of a Snapcaster, but it's not an embarrassing use, and in a situation that calls for it, do not hesitate to do it. Holding out for max value all the time will put you in worse spots than you could imagine sometimes. Other times, it's Magic. Value is very good for Magic, and also in this deck, but just read your hand, try to read the battlefield, try to imagine what the opponent's up to, and then the mystery has revealed itself. It's a Kiln Fiend deck. Pretty happy about these roasts. I'm a little sad about more sad about bottoming the Electrolyze now, but we're gonna just roast here. Opponent pauses for a decent bit, and I think something's up, and of course something is up. They have, drumroll please, Mutagenic Growth. So when your opponent is casting Mutagenic Growth on their Kiln Fiend and you're targeting it with a Roast, what could come next? Why? Another Mutagenic Growth, yes. Unfortunately for opponent, we have 2 burn spells in our hand, so unless they have 2 more Mutagenic Growths, I believe 6, yeah. No, even 2 more. Yeah, so they're stone cold. Even with the 4 full Mutagenic Growths, they are stone cold to double Roast. Roast is a card, when I first saw this list, Roast is seen playing Modern since it's been printed. Red doesn't have really any good or phenomenal. Like, if you got less than 3 toughness for Bolt, or more than 3 toughness for Bolt, Red doesn't have much removal. And it's a functional card. It answers a lot of the Painful Eldrazi. It answers Tarmogoyf. It answers the Delve creatures. It answers an early Death Shadow. It's a card that I kind of hope Wizards improves on in the future. Maybe that's a bit greedy, I guess. I don't know, but Roast is just thoroughly unexcites me, but it's a necessary evil, I believe, in this meta. After playing all these matches, I'm convinced that Roast needs to be in this deck. Claiming back a Kiln Fiend, I kind of assumed they were going to claim Endfame there, try to get in some damage. They do not, and I decide to show maximum respect for this deck's explosive power and to go for the win right here. This is a little greedy. I think I should have just attacked there, and if they want to trade, that's okay. And then we could, if they want to block and then bolt, then we could counter bounce. Like, I think that was a bit too aggressive. Winning the game sounds good. I think it's one of those situations as I talked in the last video. Like, you got to know your windows for when you need to be aggressive with this deck. I thought that was mine. I think I could have waited. I think waiting a turn, regardless of how it turned out, I think waiting a turn is probably the best line. I think from this turn out, we want to be holding up Cryptics and Snapcasters. Here I'm going for Roast. Yeah, like, we're just trying to clear the way. There's something to be said for holding up Cryptic or Snapcaster Cryptic. But in my mind, getting rid of their enablers is where I want to be at. Like, if we can get rid of that Kiln Fiend, we can win next turn. Is where my mind is at. That being said, I think maybe holding up Snapcaster Cryptic was a little bit of a better line. So here, opponent fetches, and they're flashing back Faithless Looting, presumably looking for a Lightning Bolt to deal with the Snapcaster because they're dead to it. And they mill Assault Strobe, a card I haven't seen since I played a lot of Kiln Fiend Pauper with this deck. This deck is actually one of my favorite Pauper decks. We end up drawing Lightning Bolt, so the whole conversation is moot. But this deck, I'm actually kind of jealous of the opponent's build. I love playing this deck in Pauper. It might not be the most competitive deck, but it is definitely a tier fun deck. It is a fun deck. So my sideboarding right here, I'm trying to get out all the cards I think are relevant. Grim Lavamancer is a clean answer to Kiln Fiend. Dispel is good for Temur Battle Rage. I assume they're running it. I also debate over whether Graveyard Hate is necessary or not. I also talk about Dragon's Claw for life gain, but they're attacking for huge chunks of damage. Like, getting 1 life per spell isn't going to do much. So I don't think Dragon's Claw is good in this matchup. But I do, however, considering the clues that we had in the first match and just how reliant on the graveyard they seemed, I think at least boarding in the spell bombs, if not the relic, is a place where I want to be, because I don't know if I even want Crucible of Worlds. I assume they're light on lands, but I think Crucible's a bit too slow in this matchup. So I think ideally I'd like to side out Crucible, get as many interactive spells as I can in hand. You don't want to be flooded with interaction because, a Kiln Fiend is going to attack you for a bunch regardless of if you can counter the mutagenic growths or not. The spells you want to counter are Assault Strobe and Temur Battle Rage, the ones that are doubling whatever massive amount of damage they're about to do. So I think ideally in the sideboard situation for this match, you do want to have some number of Graveyard Hate when a deck is running Noxious Revival, Thought Scour, Snapcaster Mage, and Claim. Like that's something I don't recognize in match 1, and it's something I don't do in match 2 because it wasn't thinking about it in my mind. But after both playing this match and thinking about it, I do think Graveyard Hate is acceptable. I don't think you want to be flooded on it. In fact, maybe you just want to trade one Crucible of Worlds for one piece of Graveyard Hate, because I just don't think Crucible is good. When you're testing out a new deck, especially one that you haven't built, it's easy to become a little blind to the spicier cards in the list when you're sideboarding. So sometimes in making these videos, I found, and in also just my own testing plays, I tend to not maybe make the pinnacle peak sideboard decisions, because I want to leave those cards in the back of my mind somewhere just to see if they're any good. So that being said, it's been good for me watching these videos and doing these videos, so you can recognize that. It's also hopefully good for you guys as well to look at my play and analyze it, good or bad, and apply it to your own play. These videos are more about scouting, I guess, self-scouting and scouting Modern. Like, it's a journey through Modern, and I want to be your guide through it. So I want to be showing off sweet decks, and I also want, hopefully, to be playing good sweet decks as well. So you guys can get a read on what Modern's looking like, at least online, and hopefully we can both improve together. So here is another card. Now, to get back to the match, here's another card that I did not think about, which, obviously they're going to be running Thing in the Ice. Like, redundancy with the spells Creature Matters deck. It just makes a whole lot of sense. So Thing in the Ice is just really, really, really good against Grim Lavamancer. I think I have a great hand when I keep this one. I think Grim, great. We get to we get to Serum Visions, and then we get to activate a Grim Lavamancer if they play Kiln Fiend. Thankfully, we're lucky enough that we see Roast. So we have an answer to Thing in the Ice next turn. So our hand went from kind of medium to effective. I mean, we do have Dispel for Temur Battle Rage, so things aren't super grim. We attack here, representing Lightning Bolt, we're hoping opponent doesn't block, hoping they don't call our bluff, because obviously we don't have the Lightning Bolt here. But we're also very, 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 very convinced they're not going to block there unless they have a mutagenic growth. And even then, like, Grim Lavamancer is doing nothing against them. I don't think opponent blocks there in a million years. So we're not feeling too bad. We have Dispel for anything nasty, and we have Roast coming up if Thing doesn't flip this turn, which, they've got 4 spells in hand, 4 cards in hand right now. They need to have 4 spells, and, that's not very likely. So we're feeling pretty good. Of course, this is Modern, so your hopes and your dreams are going to be crushed. Opponent leads on mutagenic growth. Immediately, if that sets off alarm bells in my mind, should set it off in yours. If you're leading with a mutagenic growth on a Thing in the Ice, opponent's going to be flipping this. That's like 100%. They're definitely planning on flipping this. As you'll see in the match, I click through this. I'm kind of just like, mutagenic growth? What? And then I'm like, oh crap, there's my Dispel. So in the back of my mind, I'm still wanting to counter Temur Battle Rage, but a double striking 7/7 is not the end of the world. A double striking 9/9 kills me here. And I spend more time deciding if I want to protect my hand from losing the Serum Visions, because I'm like, I don't know why. Like, it's just when things happen, sometimes you get tunnel vision. It's good to recognize the places when you get tunnel vision, and to think with a clear mind and try to counter, especially when you have counters. Try to interact with your opponent in a way that matters. We still have mana up for Temur Battle Rage if they have, say, Mutagenic Growth, Temur Battle Rage, but they have Assault Strobe. So now we're in deep trouble. That is a sorcery. We didn't board in Spell Pierce, I don't think. And we're just stone cold dead here. That was insane. Like, this is the kind of thing that deck can do, and it's part of the reason I like it a lot. Like, it really puts your opponent to the test. You have to be able to interact with it, or else you're just going to lose. So I thought my hand was very, very good. I thought my hand was good for the matchup, especially with Roast on top for my turn 3. Like, that was good, and we still got absolutely steamrolled. I obviously realized that, maybe Assault Strobe is very good. Dispel doesn't hit it. And honestly, we haven't seen Temur Battle Rage yet. There's no reason to think that they wouldn't have it. But they haven't showed it to us yet. So Dispel might actually be a dead card. I don't know the list. This is one of the situations, if I wasn't recording, I would just look up the list, try to look up a list, and see what kind of shenanigans they have. That's one of the things you can do in online play. And if you're unfamiliar, as long as you can do it quickly and you're not inconveniencing your opponent more than like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it's something I recommend doing. This is a hand we keep on the back of Electrolyze and Dispel. The more aggressive mulliganers among you might mulligan this hand, knowing that we have an answer to Kiln Fiend, which is great, but we don't have any interaction with Thing in the Ice, and we only have a Dispel to interact with. So, it's not a hand that you're looking at thinking this is an easy win. It's a hand that has the pieces to assemble a win, which is kind of what you need in this deck. I'm going to keep this hand, even against this deck, probably 10 times out of 10, though I won't begrudge anyone for wanting to mulligan it because, there's not a way to deal with a Thing in the Ice. Thankfully, we draw Electrolyze, so we can combine Electrolyze and Lightning Bolt to get rid of the Thing in the Ice. It always feels bad spending 2 spells to get rid of 1 creature, but Electrolyze cantrip, so actually that's card parity, not disadvantage. So, we kind of rely on Electrolyze to be an advantage engine in this deck, so it still feels bad to have to throw 2 spells at 1. But in a deck like this Kiln Fiend Thing in the Ice combo aggro deck, you want to be able... you want to spend as many cards as you have to get rid of things that can kill you. Like, the rest of their deck is air if you can get rid of these guys. So opponent loots, we're kind of just... we don't have any interaction for anything that is an instant. And they loot into... They discard both Thing in the Ice and Kiln Fiend, which is, weird at first blush, but of course, this deck is running claims. So... they're going to get back, very smart of the opponent to get back Thing in the Ice over Kiln Fiend. I assume they think, rightfully so, that we have much more answers for Kiln Fiend as a blue-red deck than we do Thing in the Ice, and they're just 100% on that. That is a brilliant call by the opponent. So, would have loved another Lightning Bolt there. Then we could have, split up Electrolyze and bolted. That would have made my absolute day. But we don't have it. I choose to play around a counterspell here. There's no real reason to hold up. Honestly, this is a risky play anyways because of the presence of mutagenic growth. The real punt here is to not split the damage 1-on-1 because mutagenic growth gets us here regardless. So we're either getting rid of this Thing in the Ice or we're probably losing next turn anyways. So the ideal play there is to split the damage. So opponent should be at 10, and we would have the board that we have. It's it's just 1 damage, you think, but in the game of Magic, 1 damage can mean the difference. ... Yeah, so opponent Serum Vision's here. We're kind of looking to see what they do with their scry. We're hoping bottom. We're always hoping bottom, but you know, that's not this match. They're gonna end up topping, I believe. Top, and then top. So things are looking bad. And then, of course, they loot right into that. So immediately I'm thinking, oh god, mutagenic growth, land, assault strobe, I'm dead again. So I'm going through all the permutations of how I'm dead. Like, there's a lot of ways I'm just dead here. Opponent has 5 cards in hand, but we're not dead. So, and we also draw Cryptic Command. So immediately when this happens, I'm thinking, mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you, deck. You're so great to me. The first thing out of my mouth is Cryptic Command. That's awesome. We can counter and then bounce their thing in the ice in response to it flipping. Or, you know, it's still going to get rid of our stuff, but we can counter and bounce this thing in the ice. We can reset this thing in the ice. That was if we had to draw one card that wasn't a roast, that was the one card we needed to draw. So yeah, just take my word for it. That was the first thing out of my mouth in the recording. So we're just sitting here waiting for opponent to play anything so that we can counter it and bounce this thing in the ice. You know, ideally we'd like to counter Assault Strobe or a creature. Slip through space. We let this resolve. I probably should have countered Slip Through Space and tried to bounce thing in the ice there. They still get to flip thing in the ice with an instant, but there's a chance they don't have an instant. So we're trying to counter bounce thing in the ice anyways. That way we can maybe keep our board. It turns out they don't have an instant, or at least they don't see need to cast an instant there because, you know, they're going to be able to flip it regardless. So this is the spell I wind up countering, and you know, it's not the worst. We don't get too punished. We lose our 2 Pyromancer tokens and our Pyromancer, and we get to counter a Death Shadow basically. So that feels good. So the words out of my mouth are, I would like to counter this spell and bounce this thing in the ice. This is the actual words out of my mouth. I fetch before casting it. No real reason to do that unless, you know, you're counter drawing. And I just go into autopilot. I click counter draw. I say counter bounce. And yeah, I'm feeling real good. And then all of a sudden, I just pause. And I can't believe that just happened. I counter drew. So that's it's becoming a bit of a catchphrase for these recordings, I guess. But that's one of those things that will never happen in paper. And that's why you need to get your reps in on Magic Online. It's really easy to turn on autopilot, especially online. And you really want to follow through with not only what you're saying, but what you want to do and double check. So yeah, thankfully we're not dead here. They do have Assault Strobe. But we are taking 14. So, you know, we're not dead, but we would be. Opponent probably wouldn't have shocked there to Assault Strobe because they wouldn't have a thing in the ice, assuming we countered the claim. Assuming the play went how it would have went, they would be at 6 minus 1. They'd be at 5 right now, and they would have a tapped fetch or shock. Here, sometimes when you make a mistake, you have a tendency to compound, or people have a tendency to compound those mistakes, especially when playing Magic. I spend this Cryptic Command right there because I really want that thing in the ice gone. I wanted it gone last turn, and I just want it gone. It's 0. It's not correct at all to do it on my turn. We should wait. And we end up getting maximum punished for not doing that. So here we would have Cryptic Command up, an empty board. We would be able to counter this Death Shadow. Maybe they don't cast Death Shadow. Maybe they cast Thing in the Ice, let's say. So they cast Thing in the Ice or Death Shadow. But yeah, so they wind up giving it haste, and then haste with the Fame in the Yard, and unblockable. So having Cryptic up there, we could have stopped any one of those shenanigans that would have killed us. and then we would have been able to attack back for lethal. So yeah, it's unfortunate that I let that mistake happen. But as I said earlier, like, the stakes here are very small. The reward here is very small. The real reward here is recognizing your mistakes, hopefully, and learning from them. Hopefully, I myself will learn from them. You guys will all learn from them, and we'll all become better Magic players in the process. So this was an eminently winnable game, and I think Burn was not eminently winnable. I think this was the game that our punts really came back to haunt us. That Burn match in that last video was insane, but I don't think we weren't going to win that game regardless of how I played. But yeah, this is the blue-red Pyromancer aggro control deck. My version is more aggro control. The original version with planeswalkers and not as many creatures got a 5-0 in a competitive league. MTGO user Habakiri, I think I've said that before, but I really want to give him credit for making Pyromancer relevant and modern again. I've really been looking for a deck to be able to play this style of Magic with for a long time. This is kind of my favorite way to play Magic. It's one of my favorite ways. I kind of like all the ways to play Magic, but this is one of my top 5 ways to play Magic. I love Young Pyromancer decks. Young Pyromancer across all formats, I say. But yeah, I love this deck. I think it's extremely competitive. You're never out of any game. I think these 4 videos, if anything, have shown you that you're in every single game. You don't have a bad matchup. And if that's the kind of Magic you like playing, then this is 100% the deck for you. The flip side to not having a bad matchup is that you don't have a phenomenal matchup. With some of the aggro decks, with Affinity, with Burn, you've got matchups that are very, very hard to lose. With a deck like this, you're basically 50-50 against the field. There's some 55-45s, maybe there's a 65-35 out there, but I don't think your win percentage will ever get higher than that, your expected win percentage. So you trade off easy, quote-unquote, wins. I don't think there's an easy win. There's never an easy win in Magic, but you trade off easy wins for play against the field, and that's a trade-off I'm very okay with making, and that's a trade-off I think that rewards your play skill, it rewards your ability to navigate your own deck, and your ability to navigate your opponent's decks and play around stuff. So, like I said, if interactive Magic is what you want to do, I cannot recommend this deck more highly. I'd encourage you to check out Habakiri's deck list. Look it up on MTG Goldfish. Yeah, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed myself. I think we're going to be playing more of this deck. I don't think it's going to be my next video, but yeah, hopefully we'll have a video out this weekend to sate you guys over the quote-unquote dead zone for YouTube videos. But yeah, really enjoyed playing this. Hope you guys enjoyed as well. Have a good day.